Hello, everyone who joined. For those who don't know me, I'm Alex Mullins. I'm a senior marketing major. I'm going to be moderating and helping out with this panel. So first, we're just going to get into it. I'm going to introduce everyone. First,
I'm sorry, real quick, Al.
Yeah.
Let me jump in real quick. Thank you all for coming to the panel. This is graduating in a challenging economy with 2008 and 2009 graduates. We are recording this, so if there's anyone who does not want to have their face recorded, you can turn that off. If at any point you have any questions, please use the chat. We're going to, at the last 15 to 20 minutes, we are going to open up to the floor. Anyone has any questions, so type those in and we'll take care of those. But this is our moderators is Alex. He is a 2020, he's going to be a graduate marketing major. So you go ahead.
So as Jaden said, my name's Alex. We are very special to be joined by a couple of graduates today, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So if you guys just want to go one by one, just state what year you graduated, a little summary of what you do, and stuff like that we talked about before. So go ahead.
Who's first in the role? All right, so I'll take this. I'm Joseph Rivera, class of everyone's in a different box, I'm sure, to each other. Joseph Rivera, class of 2008. I was a management major at Kennedy School. Originally from Staten Island, New York, currently in Kearney, New Jersey. And I am the vice president and executive director at JLS Cost Management Systems. It's my family's construction cost and project management firm based in Manhattan. And welcome.
Awesome.
My name's Christy Courtier. I graduated in 2009. I was a history major, and my current position is in Princeton, New Jersey. I work for the Bonner Foundation as well as the College of New Jersey as a grant employee. I am a program director for an AmeriCorps grant, as well as providing programming for the Bonner Foundation in terms of leadership, where the foundation provides endowments to schools to give scholarships to first-generational students to attend college, and through that scholarship they do community service.
Hey everybody, I'm Steph Tannum. I am undergraduate class of 2008, and I am an MBA graduate of 2018. My undergraduate from Scranton was in philosophy and communication. Yes, I was an SJLAer. My MBA was with a focus in marketing through the Scranton Online program. I'm currently the Director of Portfolio Marketing and Strategic Programs for IQVIA. If any of you are familiar with the pharma space, we are the ones that provide all of their data, all of their technology, etc. ad nauseum. It's a busy time for us right now.
I guess I'll go next. I am Paul Boyer. I am the Senior Business Analyst and Project Manager for Moody's Analytics, which means I handle all of the software development efforts that go into moodysanalytics.com. I am a 2009 graduate, and my degree is in communication. So obviously going from communication to technology is something I wasn't quite expecting to do back in 2009, but here we are. I'm originally from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I live in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is just across the river from Manhattan, where my office was based in One World Trade Center.
So I'll hop in. I'm Mary Kuna. I was the class of 2009. I'm a political science major, and I grew up in the Scranton area and actually went away for about 10 years and came on back. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Pittston. I'm also their Planning Director, and I own Kuna Consulting, creative name, which I do economic development consulting for municipalities and nonprofits.
Hey, Molly Putnam.
Oh, go ahead, Molly. Go ahead, Molly.
All right, I'll go. Molly Putnam, class of 2009. I was a marketing major, originally from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and then moved to New York for about 6 years, and now I'm living in San Diego, so I've kind of been a little bit all over the place. Currently an executive director at the MPD Group. We're a market research company. We work with all of the major retailers and manufacturers. We help them understand what's happening in the marketplace and use fact-based data, which we collect from the retailers through receipts and through consumer surveys to help them understand what they should be assorting in their stores, what products at the right place at the right time. So also a very busy time for us right now.
All right, I'll go this time. My name is Nick Salise. I was a management major, graduating class of 2008. I am a business project specialist for Vanguard. Vanguard is, for those of you who don't know, a finance firm in Malvern, Pennsylvania. And I handle the learning and development for the institutional side of our business.
Awesome. That's everyone, right? Yeah, that's everyone. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So as everyone knows, this is a panel for graduating in a challenge economy. So all these panelists have in common, they all graduated what seemed to be into a challenging economy. And so the first question we have is, what challenges did you guys face when looking for a full-time job during your senior year, you know, leaving college and kind of being a little bit scared of kind of the economy that you're heading into?
Finding a job.
Yeah.
But there weren't any.
There weren't many.
There were not many.
So I don't know how much everybody who is a 2020 senior here knows about 2008, 2009, but right before we graduated in 2008, the housing market crashed, which was one of the big catalysts of the Great Recession. So for a lot of us, finding a job in our field was impossible, and finding a job, period, was difficult. So that was definitely the most challenging.
Yeah, I'll second that, Steph. It was interesting. I had decided to go for my MBA, figuring, sure, in 2 years this thing will turn itself right around, and all it meant was that I graduated with a higher degree at a higher salary base, and nobody wanted to hire me anyway. But in that time, and especially in the year afterwards, where I was still searching for a job, and it tested your patience, tested your resilience, tested resolve. I bounced around to a few different places, none of which really suited my major, what I was looking to do. Ultimately ended up at JLS, again, the family business, but now wasn't on the original path. But it was definitely a tough time, but it was all about pushing through and keep sending in those resumes.
I would say,
Awesome. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Nicholas.
I was like, I didn't soon enough get a clear answer, an honest answer for what I want to do, right? You'll have friends and family and connections that want to help you, and they'll ask you, hey, what are you looking for? Because they're going to talk, because they care about you, they're going to talk to their network as well. So make sure you have an honest but fair, like quick little blurb about what you're willing to do and what you ultimately want to do. And if you can communicate that quickly and succinctly, they'll be able to share that with their network.
Yeah, you both mentioned networking and sending out resumes, and I think a big challenge for me was just using some of the traditional methods like applying through company websites or LinkedIn just was not proving successful. And you can send out resume after resume after resume, but it was really difficult getting recognized. Even if you had the opportunity to speak to human resources or a recruiting staff, it was hard to get beyond that point. So networking becomes even more critical in times like these. There are opportunities that aren't even listed or posted yet, or opportunities come up and hiring managers want to fill these spots really fast because who knows how long they're going to have that opportunity to even fill that position. So making sure that you're top of mind by networking is really important.
I would say rely on some professors. I ended up in a bit of a situation trying to get into the field I wanted to be in. And so I reached out to a professor in the philosophy department who had written a number of books, and she was fantastic. She actually created an internship for me at the University of Scranton. And I spent time just building the network from there, but it was just trying to find a way to be in what I wanted to do. So there's always ways to get involved, but it's never a closed door. Just try and find the loopholes.
I just want to make a statement about the Alumni Board and the alumni community. There are tens of thousands of us out there, some of whom share your major, your field of interest, and we're here. So, it's actually, the whole reason we're doing this talk right now. Feel free to reach out, talk to career services, talk to anybody in advancement, and they will happily put you in touch with an alum who is willing to help you out. That's exactly what we're here for.
During my time at Scranton, my first 2.5 years until I switched my major to history, I was actually a nursing major. So I hung out with people who had a strict path. They were going to be a PT or an OT, be a nurse. But unfortunately, the pharmacology course got in my way. So I had to switch my major real quickly. And I found that history was I had enough credits in that to finish it within 1.5 years. So my plan has always been, there was always obstacles in the road, right? It kind of deterred, or I took a detour somewhere else. And because of that, I'm actually in the position that I'm in now because of all those detours. So I actually did 2 years of service through AmeriCorps VISTA. I know this is being recorded, but I was actually at Oscars and someone said that they were part of AmeriCorps VISTA and they were planning a mentoring program for kids with incarcerated parents. So that's how I found out the opportunity, classic Scranton networking, right? So I actually manage that program now, or I direct that program that I was a part of. I took, after I did 2 years of service, I went back up to the University of Scranton and worked in university advancement. And then I came back to my current position. But I would have never, and yes, and I got to hang out with the famous Jay Swass too. But I would have never been in the position I have now without that opportunity of becoming an AmeriCorps VISTA, serving the community that I grew up in. Sometimes I wear an accounting hat, sometimes I wear an HR hat, program development, leadership training, or getting my hands dirty of like making an urban garden with one of our nonprofits. So as you guys kind of go through this really, really difficult time and ending your senior year on this note, know that this detour is going to build you up to who you are and going to put you on the path years from now. So try to take advantage of the opportunity. And I highly encourage you to look at doing a year of service. It opens up the doors dramatically. I was welcomed with open arms to attending county meetings, city meetings, state meetings, and having the opportunity to network with those during my next steps once I was at that opportunity to look at the next steps too. But then also provide me an in-look into that higher education could be an avenue of continuing my career. So I've been with the higher ed network for a little bit over 10 years now.
Awesome. Great answers. So how are you guys kind of feeling going, after graduation? I know a lot of seniors and even maybe some juniors are feeling maybe anxious or nervous about what to expect, but can you guys just go into like how you guys maybe were feeling, or if there was any mental or physical effects you guys had leading up to after graduation?
I don't know if it hit until I started really getting out there and applying for jobs. Graduation was amazing. The couple of weeks afterwards was still a little euphoric. So I don't know if there's any real trepidation for me, at least, leaving Scranton, other than leaving Scranton. And it really wasn't until I started to get out there and try and submit my resume and find a job that I was starting to like, oh crap, this is really real, and this is really a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But again, it was about staying positive, staying with it, reaching out to connections, and moving forward.
Yeah, I know this is probably going to sound ridiculous given how just crazy, over the top, almost melodramatic everything is in the world today, but don't underestimate what you're going into, because getting a job in the best circumstances is already difficult. That's not meant to like discourage you. It's meant to just be like, you need to come into this prepared. I thought Nick had a really good piece of advice where he said, have an idea in a nice elevator pitch of what it is you want to do, because there are people out there who want to help you. And the best way they can help you is by you helping them and giving them a clear idea of what it is you want to do. As far as keeping stress down, again, lean on that support system, whatever form it might take, whether it's family, friends, significant other, whoever it is, they're there to help you. They're there to support you. And they may even be going through the same thing you are at the same time. So just give it your max, because it's going to take that in order to get into the workforce right now. Just keep working at it and don't give up. Don't let it get you down. It's really important to keep your head above water.
Yeah, like what Paul's saying, one of the most important things that I struggled with is remembering that it's not necessarily about me. It's not necessarily my fault. It's not necessarily something that I did. So I was one of the lucky ones. I came out of graduation and within 6 to 8 weeks, I landed a job. Wasn't my dream job. Definitely hated it. But it was a job and it was something that was going to bolster my resume. But I can still remember we lived in this house in Manayunk, and I can remember sitting on the front porch steps, just crying on the phone one day to my best friend from college going, oh my God, I'm that person that peaked in college. Like I peaked in college and everything else is downhill from here. And, you know, you have to constantly remind yourself that there's only so much that you're in control of when the markets are swinging. And eventually the market's going to go back up. It's cyclical. So try not to personalize or internalize too much of any rejection that you may get, or what you're most likely to run into, which is the black hole void of no responses.
I think I'll bring this up. Stephanie just made a really good point. You might get your first job and it might not be what you want. And that's sort of the shocker. I thought I saw a lot of younger people when I graduated realize like, this was not what I wanted. I want this, and you'll get there. I promise you, you'll get there. It's sort of, you might have to take a step and take something you're maybe not as passionate about, but and that's a little disheartening, but that's where keeping the network going, getting involved in organizations, finding your way to be on boards, like find other opportunities, but you might have to take something you're not necessarily at the moment. You know, I had a professor once said, you're smarter than your first job. You're going to feel smarter than your first job. And that's okay.
Exactly.
It's
experience.
It's part of the process. Don't let it wear you down.
Experience is experience. It's just as important to know what you don't like as to what you do like, and you might learn something on that job to take to the next job. And like Mary was saying, get involved in groups, clubs, organizations, young professional societies, you know, volunteer at an animal shelter, whatever it might be, you know, do something else in the meantime, so that, you know, even though you're not working at your dream job, you're still doing something else that interests you and makes connections.
Yeah, I would say.
Oh, go ahead, Nick. No.
I was saying one thing. So like, I remember distinctly like the periods, right? Like my first 8 weeks, it was, the only way you could label that is entitled denial. I'm going to get the job I want. I'm going to turn down the jobs I don't want. Like, that's how it's going to work. And I entered then a phase of like impatient anxiety, like, oh shit, what did I do? I passed up a job and now like, here I am. And I would say the advice is just be patient with yourself. Like, you're trying your hardest. You are not going to set the world on fire in year one. Like, do not put that pressure on yourself. Keep trying, create a plan, just like keep putting in that effort and just be patient with yourself.
And focus on yourself. Don't be watching what your friends are doing, what jobs they might have gotten. No.
Definitely don't do that.
Your path. Focus on your path. It is your path. Focus on it.
Instagram makes it hard. Facebook makes it hard, but you got your life, they got their life, and doesn't make a difference one or the other.
Yeah, I will tell you, when you go to your 5-year reunion, your 10-year, especially your 5-year reunion, nobody will ask you what you did your first year out of college. Nobody is going to care.
Nope.
Nice.
You also don't know what you don't know, and you might think that you're heading into or you're losing a dream job, but I entered into a role that I hadn't expected. You know, I didn't want to pass up this opportunity, and I wasn't really seeing myself getting into market research specifically, but now I'm at this company for 9 years and I love it. And if I had never taken this opportunity, I wouldn't have known that.
And there was a question, I don't know if this is if I'm jumping in your job, Alex, but
Go ahead.
Question that is definitely related to this about, if you've got to take a job that is to pay the bills or put food on the table, how do you continue to not only stay motivated, but stay educated and up to date in things that are in your field? I can tell you what I did for a fact, because that's exactly what happened. I ended up in a job for editing textbooks, which is as boring as you think it might be. And volunteering is the best thing that you could possibly do to supplement your resume with experiences that are more geared toward what you want to do at the end of this. I didn't think to do it out of the box. I just kind of fell into marketing and networking for local nonprofits, for bands, volunteering for women's organizations. But all of those experiences added up to the point where eventually I walked into a marketing interview and they were like, yeah, we'll take you. Look at all this experience. You don't have to put in your resume that you got paid in cookies, okay? Like, it doesn't matter how you got paid. If you did the work, it's your work, you get to own it. So wherever you can find those nuggets of joy, separate it from how you're putting food on the table, because the two don't have to be linked. I waited tables for 10 years to supplement my income until I got married and landed my dream job. So, like, you guys got it.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I would also say this: you're not stuck. Your first job won't be your last job, unless it's very fortunate that you find the job. But it is very important to understand that you could stay with the company for a few months or a year or a few years, jump to the next company at a different position, and it's not just that straight 50 years up the ladder you get your gold watch at the end anymore. So no matter where you are, it's not your final destination.
Exactly. And I would say, I ran into this with my parents, who were the people who had worked at the same company for 30, 40 years. So I kind of ran into that, well, it doesn't make sense. You went to college, you should be the job and then the job, and you stay at the job. And so explaining that difference to them was very difficult. And I had a lot of sort of conflict within that. They didn't quite understand the market I was walking into. They didn't relate. And it was very difficult to explain that. So you might get some feedback, and it's your time and your path, and things are much different now than they were 30, 40 years ago. So just take the road as it comes.
3 years or less. Statistically speaking, people in the beginning of their careers are going to stay at their first 2 jobs 3 years or less.
I hire a lot of recent grads, and the number one thing that I have them do is read 2 books. One is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. It gives them a housing policy. But another book that I highly recommend you guys to read is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. You guys all have skills and expertise, but the number one thing that I think especially a Scranton grad brings is that ability to build connections with others. Once you can get that and know yourself first and be authentic, that's how you can not only lead yourself into the path that you want, but you can actually then lead others down that same path. So I highly encourage you to pick up those 2 books, especially during this time, because people want to hire people that they want to be surrounded by. They don't want to be surrounded by jerks. So this is a real opportunity, not for all of us to, sit on our duffs. It's an opportunity for us to learn and grow, especially kind of during this turmoil time. And our reality is going to shift. But the number one thing that's going to stay the same is, what are your values and what are the behaviors that drives those values, and how are you going to connect with others based upon those values? And that's the Scranton strength right there.
Awesome. Awesome. Very, very good answers. So the next question would have to be, so you guys go into saying you reach out, you network, but if you guys can go in a little more detail on maybe even networking or any other resources you used after graduation to help you, maybe find jobs or any other help you found after graduation.
So like I said, I ended up talking to a professor who sort of led me into realizing that my path was graduate school. What I wanted to do, I had to specifically go to a graduate program to do. So in the meantime of figuring that out, because not only are you in a down economy looking for a job, now you're considering going in a graduate program. So you're going through the process of GREs and reapplying. And it was a bit of it was a lot. And she put me in touch with Robert Farrell over at the University of Scranton. And I was first ever, possibly the only intern he's ever had. And I worked for free, but it was through him and talking to him about what I wanted to do. He put me in touch with different people. And so I spent my time just making these different connections. I called, so my background's urban planning, and I called 1 million urban planners that he knew around the country. And I'd ask their advice on a program and where to go and who I should talk to. And I just kept, don't be afraid. And this is something I learned just sadly in my late 20s, never be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask people to connect you to somebody else. And it's not because you're really terrified of that, but that was a huge thing for me. And it really built up that momentum for when I did apply to graduate school and I did start going in there and I did start building up my network in the field that I'm in.
Yeah, I would say, and I just follow up, Mary, that's a great point. Like, you're going to have contacts and people in your network that are going to want to help you, but it is your responsibility to tell them how. Being prepared with what you're looking for, what guidance, like, if you just expect them to deliver what you want without you ever communicating to them what you want, that's just unrealistic, right? So start small. Even if it's they just introduce you to someone at a company or introduce you to someone that has a role or is in a profession. Like, you got to take it in baby steps. But if you don't tell them how they can specifically help you, they're going to want to help you and not be able to.
Yeah, I agree. People want to help you, and networking isn't only about the initial outreach. It's also staying in touch with the people that are in your network. Sometimes we get lost in everything that's happening right now, but it's really important just to do a quick check-in. Even you might have a specific ask, or you might just use it as a check-in to keep in touch. Making sure that you're continuing those relationships are important.
As for where to find networks, obviously you have some networks that are already built in for you, right? You've got your family, you've got your friends, you've got your high school group, you've got your college group, you've got your professors. For those of you who are looking into fields where there are a lot of membership orgs and membership groups, that's a great place to really start to expand that network in ways that you've never even imagined. So if you have the opportunity to go to local meetups, if you have the opportunity to join, even the LinkedIn groups can be incredibly active. You have no idea who you're gonna meet and who you're gonna be able to exchange ideas with. Even to this day, part of my job is training some of the smartest people in the world how to network in a digital space. Because they're expecting something in return from people that they're networking with, like an opportunity to close a deal or information on which companies using which tools, this, that, and the other thing. But what everyone forgets is that we have to give before we can get. So participating in these groups, asking questions, being curious, offering advice or answers to other people who have questions when you might have insight. You'll be surprised at the relationships that you can build digitally that exponentially expand your network of influence.
Yeah, digital is such a good point. Everything is digital now. So you might have even more networking opportunities than you did before, because groups that were meeting in person are now all online. And if you're in research or marketing, one that I was a part of is the Advertising Research Foundation. It's free, and it's a perfect way to network with people who are both looking for jobs or who are established in their careers. And I think that there are a lot of free opportunities like that out there.
I would also tell you, chambers of commerce right now are trying to really prove their relevance to the world. So if you do not know your local chamber of commerce, whether here or where you want to be, look into what they're doing, because a lot of them are trying to do networking groups, Zoom meetings. They're trying to take all of that and put it online. So if you're under the age of 21, there's an advantage here, because some of their networking events, you have to be over 21. But realistically, there's a great opportunity to start just checking in on them. Sometimes you don't need to be a member to do these things, so you can potentially just chime on in. But those I would look into, even for where you want to be. So if you don't particularly live in the place you want to live, go find a chamber where you want to live and start going that direction. But they're being pretty active right now from what I've seen.
Mary actually touched on that. There was a question in the chat from Nora, which, hi Nora, good to see you again, about relocating in a down economy, and that's a great point. I don't know if you should go to a new state without knowing if there's an opportunity for you, but if you do your research and you find a place where you think you might fit, if you find a position you think you might like, or if you're able to reach out to these chambers of commerce or alumni, whoever might be out in wherever you plan on going, do the research first. Make it an educated leap of faith. That's the blind one. But if you can find an opportunity and it works for you, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you guys, all of you. So I know I experienced this next question a little bit personally. So a lot of students who are graduating, or some juniors I even know, receive job offers, and they've recently been rescinded due to what's going on with COVID-19 and whatnot. So what advice do you have for students who may be now looking for jobs a little late in the game because they already had a job offer but then yet rescinded, so they might be what they think to be a little behind? Any advice on that situation?
First of all, I'm sorry if that's you. Yeah.
Paul, what was that you were saying? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, first of all, I'm sorry if that applies to you, because that's awful. But I think Steph actually said this a few minutes ago. It's not your fault. If that happened to you, it's not your fault. And if anything, it should be encouraging, because you already got to an offer stage. That's somewhere many, many, many people don't get, especially this early on in the stage. It's demoralizing. I know it stinks. But that's a sign of encouragement. You did something right. You did a lot of things right in order to get to the point where a company was like, yeah, absolutely, we want to hire you. So take what you learned from going through that process. You won't be able to boilerplate it because every interview is different, but understand what went well, what could have led you to getting to that stage, getting that offer. And I don't want to say know your worth, but you now have a better understanding of salary negotiation, especially early on. That's one of the toughest things for somebody to learn. You have an idea of what you can get paid. If this was for a full-time or a part-time job, you have a rough estimate. You've learned things. I know you're not getting the job, and that's probably the prize that you wanted at the end, but you have things you can take away from this, even though it's a less than ideal outcome.
Yeah,
so I would
go ahead, Christy.
So that actually happened to me. I had a job offer rescinded, and it was actually late in the summer. So I had to find something in the fall. So I would say you're not late. There's always going to be an opportunity down the line. It may not be according to your timeline, but you have to kind of keep on going and moving forward. I mean, I applied to a bunch of fellowships, Teach for America, normal jobs, right? That are quote unquote normal jobs that are outside of the year of service. I applied to be like a teacher. I even applied to like different cities. But when I did get the offer and I accepted it and it was rescinded, it was later in my timeline, right? And yeah, you get the pressure from your parents being like, what are you gonna do? And the next best opportunity for me was to actually complete and do a year of service through, or do 2 years of service through AmeriCorps. And some of the benefits through that was that I was able to network and build my skills and take the time to actually get to know myself, and do a real true reflection. And I was lucky enough to find a position that was close to my parents' home, and I was able to live at home with my parents, but then still be local to see my friends. A lot of my Scranton friends were from the Philadelphia area. So I would travel down and see them for a little bit. But within that, within AmeriCorps, within itself, and what you'll find with a lot of jobs that are down right now is that there may be side benefits that may not necessarily be within your salary. So ask about, hey, are there funds for relocation? Are there extra education or training opportunities that may be available to you now? So then that you're actually getting your monetary value in a different place. So you have to ask those questions and be creative. For me, for AmeriCorps, I actually received an education award. Today it's valued at $6,000, and a lot of institutions are matching the value of the education award. So you could actually double it in value. So then if you're looking to go back to grad school, then you basically have given yourself a $12,000 scholarship on top of whatever the financial aid will be at that institution. But more of those benefits will come down the line, especially through AmeriCorps, just because of the unique circumstances that we're in. So I highly encourage you to take AmeriCorps, look at their benefits, and see if another job is out there, seeing if you could ask for those benefits within your current, within the position that you're looking at.
You touched on something I want to make a point of. If you can, if your relationship with your parents is good and they're supportive, there is no stigma around staying home for a couple of years. Take it from a good Italian boy whose mother was very happy that he did. Sticking around and being home, helps you save your money. It helps you, reach out to, your contacts back home, and it gives you, a leg up to just focus on what you need to focus on. So, don't think there's some kind of, guy in the basement in his 40s stigma around staying home. There is certainly value to, taking that opportunity if you can.
Yeah, there's no shame in it. For serious though, if you're worried about being behind in the job search, the numbers are on your side. 70% of college graduates do not get a job offer before they graduate. That's only 30% are actually getting job offers before they graduate. And of that 30%, 78% of them are people who are getting jobs directly in their fields. So think people who, like in the finance field or in business fields, who are interning their senior year at a place that often has recent college grad hiring programs. So like A+, you got a job offer, you are not behind if it's rescinded. You're in the same spot as everyone else.
Yeah, I would add to that rescinded element, right? So that happened to you, and I would use that, right? So kind of in a way, it's pretty awesome if you think about it this way. It gives you a crisis action resolution story to tell in your interview, because that is a boilerplate interview question. And that is something that gives you that's different from your peers. So this happened to you, that sucks. Like, how did you overcome it? The second piece is it gives validation to that employer that other companies did want you, right? So I would have to use that to my advantage. Like, that's really I wasn't responsible for and didn't cause. That's real life. This is a chance at a young age to have experience dealing with crisis and demonstrate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you find yourself in this situation again, you can think about it as an opportunity. So you've obviously already displayed that you're a valuable asset to this company and that you have the right skill sets, and you also have some advocates on your side within that company. So it can't hurt to talk to the hiring manager and say, do you have other essential roles that you're still filling within the company, or can we continue our discussions in a mentor form, or can you refer me to somewhere else? Use it to your advantage.
Yeah, Molly, to piggyback on that, informational interviews are great too. If, maybe it doesn't work out, you could say to the HR rep or someone, in the position that you're looking for, can I take you out for a cup of coffee and talk about your position? How did you get to where you are? There's something about bringing that person in where they don't expect that you want anything from them, that may actually lead them to, but I know so-and-so who has a job opening you might be good for, or they might be able just to mentor you through the time period that you're in, give you some tips, tricks, pitfalls to watch out for. So always good just to reach out, without any real expectation of just other than having a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So I just want to go back to a point that Paul made actually in the beginning about negotiating salaries. So do you guys have any suggestions for salary negotiations during a down economy? I know that may seem a little awkward at first, or I know everyone seems to be struggling and it might seem to be a taboo subject. So if you guys can just touch upon that, maybe give us some tips and tricks on how to maybe properly negotiate during these times.
First off, I would say for beyond this circumstance, do your research first. I think a lot of people don't do that, or don't think I remember getting out of school thinking how much I was worth. And then there's the reality of what the job market is. Research, know where you're researching. So if you tell me today you want to move to Los Angeles from Scranton, if you just research the job salaries in Scranton, that doesn't translate to Los Angeles. Also look up the cost of living. That's a big component. So do your research first. In whatever case, whether it's a good economy, a bad economy, already sort of have a base, have your minimum, have your maximum. But I'd say research first. It's a taboo subject, but if you have the information and you know what the average is, then you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable asking the question.
Absolutely. And research, not only for yourself, but as you go into these conversations, if you're just asking for no money with no reason, you're not going to have as good of a chance as if you say, here's what I need and here's why I need it. Because I've already done this. I've looked at what the cost of living is. And for me to take this job, this is what I really need. You have a much better chance that way. And actually, if I'm interviewing a candidate and they do some negotiation, I see that as a valuable skill versus someone who doesn't do that. So I don't think it hurts to have the conversation.
Yeah, echoing that, know your market value. So when I talk to students about salary negotiations, there's really two things that I tell them. First and foremost is know your market value. You can get that from everything from payscale.com, salary.com. You can go to .gov and actually pull all the salary information, not just for your position, but also based on your education level, based on what city and town that you live in and that you want to work in. Compare all of those numbers. You're going to find a low, middle, and high range in there. So make sure that you figure out where you want to be. What is the salary that you're asking for? Make sure it covers your bills. But then also come with the justification for why you fit in that band. The second biggest piece of advice that I can give anyone doing salary negotiations: do not answer the question, what are you currently making? Don't tell anybody what your current salary is. Don't tell anybody if you have a current salary. It is nobody's business but yours. It can be really scary to walk into a job interview, especially in a downturn economy, and feel like you are not in a place of power because you need to feed yourself. But that's not the case. You are in an interview to make sure that it's a good fit for you just as much as the hiring manager wants to make sure that you're a good fit for that company. And that means you have to level the playing field. They're not going to tell you what the person who was previously in your position was making. You don't owe them the information about your salary. The real quick quip that I usually give students and my mentees to say, because you don't want to sound rude and say it's none of your business, is what I'm looking for is X, and this is why I'm looking in that range. And if they keep pushing, again, this is what I'm looking for. And if it meets your requirements and what you have available fund-wise, great, let's keep talking. If not, I completely understand that. Let's keep the door open. We'll have conversations. Maybe there'll be a better fit down the line, but it's not going to work for us. So just be honest about that and don't show your hand ever.
I think we do have to give respect to the current conversation or the current environment that a lot of companies, their employees have reduced pay right now if they haven't had layoffs or their companies aren't furloughed. So it's very possible that even if you have that conversation, you're not going to get the answer that you want. You can get creative. Negotiating salary doesn't always have to be the salary. You know, you can talk about things like, can you reimburse my mobile phone and internet? You're probably going to be working from home for a little while, depending on where you're at. So are there things that you can do to compensate my work from home expenses, something that'll impact your bottom line? And then your current salary won't be your current salary forever. So you know, you're probably going to move to a new job, or you can course correct and have that conversation with your manager throughout your career.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We're actually going to jump to some student questions real quick. Since we're running out of time, we are on a time cap. But the first one is from Kyle Schaefer. He's asking, most students are not going to be obtaining the job they originally planned for, and he wants to know how we should stay motivated and keep applying for that dream job, whether it's working in full-time position that you love or remain not employed. Just some advice on how to stay motivated, whether you land on your ideal job first or not.
I think the real key thing there is that you need to understand what that dream job is and find out how you can keep building yourself up toward it. I could speak from a little bit of personal experience, but this is kind of niche. I am someone who really enjoys baseball, and I had this dream of getting into the baseball industry for, I don't know, 10 years even before I was graduating. I did not get a job in baseball right out of college, as you might expect. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to eventually put myself in a position to get back there someday. And so I wrote about it on the side. I always loved writing. I knew I paid attention to what was going on, and I kept my skills sharp. Writing about it and putting myself out there and putting just thoughts out there held me accountable to myself, that I was staying on top of things and understanding what was going on and staying current. If you have a dream job that you don't get right away, you need to still keep tabs on it to understand what it's going to look like when you're in a position to get that job again, because it's not going to look exactly the same.
It's a great point, Paul. I was going to say something very similar. You know, even if you're in a job that's not exactly analogous to what you want to do, look at the skill sets that your dream job requires. And if there's a project you could be on at the job that you're at, if there's something you can do outside of your day-to-day job description at that job, do it. And if it builds to a resume for that dream job, you've just got experience right out of the bat that you can go to that job in, whatever time frame it is afterwards and say, listen, I've done X, Y, and Z. I know you're looking for that. Here's what I've accomplished.
Yeah, to Joe's point, right? So I graduated, I wanted to get in finance, right? But I was big, team playing was a big utility factor for me. Get in the finance industry right in 2008, where we were a dime a dozen, I wasn't getting the team element. So I did that job because it paid the bills, but I actually volunteered to coach high school basketball because that scratched that itch, right? I got a lot of utility out of it. And it turns out 2 years into that position, I actually got recruited from a parent of one of my players into my second job. And that wasn't part of the plan.
Awesome. Oh, no. Awesome. All right. A second question we have is for Jennifer Cuisino. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the last name, but she wants to know, did you feel pressure finding a job to pay off your loans once you graduated? What do you suggest graduates do in order to feel less pressured or stressed in securing a job during these difficult moments?
I love the loan question. So I am still, it is 2020 and I graduated in 2008. I am still paying off my undergraduate loans from the University of Scranton. So I feel this so hard. The first thing that you have to remember about the student loans is that they cannot repossess your education. Okay. So loan companies at the end of the day want to make back as much of their money as they possibly can. And that means taking whatever you can offer them at any given time. A lot of times when you start to get behind on your student loan payments, or you don't know how you're going to meet your student loan payments, the default is to panic and avoid the phone calls and avoid the letters and not respond to anyone. Do not do that. Go against all of those instincts. Pick up the phone, call the loan company, because there are options for you. There is deferments, there is forbearance, there is graduated payments, there is low income payments. The options are literally endless, because the people on the other end of that phone want to get whatever money back that they can, and it's not in their best interest nor yours for you to go into default. So as for the pressure, yeah, you're gonna have pressure to pay your bills. You absolutely are. But the pressure to feed yourself, the pressure to put gas in your car, the pressure to have electricity in your house, those are the pressures that should be the ones that are a higher priority. Your student loans, I'm not saying don't pay them. Your student loans, call them and work out a deal. They will do it. I promise you.
Yeah, great. To answer the first question, absolutely felt the pressure to find a job to pay off loans, but there are a lot of options. One of the examples Stephanie gave was a graduated repayment plan. I had consolidated my loans and then saw what the payment was going to be, talked to the loan company, and you can set it up so that, you know, you're assuming that your pay is going to increase as you go throughout your career, and it just happened to work for me. Happy to report that I'm loan free.
I hope you had champagne for that.
I definitely did.
So one of the benefits.
Sorry, Kirsty.
Oh, I'm sorry. So one of the benefits through AmeriCorps is that the loan can be put into deferment or forbearance for the year, and the interest that accrues over your year of service is actually paid off by the National Service Trust, which is the same entity that would give you the education award. And this is a benefit that's only towards AmeriCorps. Peace Corps volunteers do not receive this benefit. So as I told Jay, this may be a plug. I am hiring for the fall. So there are different issue areas that you can serve under. So if folks are in the tri-state area, and we are setting up stuff to do from a remote setting for the fall, as well as a few positions for a summer position, reach out to me, and I would be more than happy to hire a Royal. But this is one of the benefits that kind of addresses the loan problem, and I felt it have same issues that, you know, Stephanie and Molly have been through that they've articulated, but it was really cool to have a chunk of change to put towards my loan and ultimately help pay it off in a shorter amount of time after I did 2 years of service.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So we have one last question. It's a little bit of a deep one, but what do you guys wish you did differently? Looking back now that you all have successful careers right now, you're all established. What is something you wish you did differently back then?
Ask for help sooner.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Kept a bigger open mind about what I'd want to do. I had a professor at the University of Scranton, Dr. Anderson, not the same one that is there now, who was a visiting professor, who told me I should go into marketing, and I laughed at him and said I didn't want to sell my soul, and it took me 10 years to figure out that that's actually where I belong. So an open mind. You don't know where you're going to end up and what you're going to end up loving.
Yeah, and I said at the start, I can't stress enough. Just be patient with yourself. Like, everyone's going to be critical of you. Everyone's going to push you. You're going to be your harshest critic. I know this is probably not going to land now, but like tomorrow is not forever. And just because you don't have it in time or because someone else does, just be patient. As long as you're putting in the effort and you keep trying and you're being authentic about it as you do it. Just be patient. You'll get there. I wish I would have been less critical of myself during that time.
Wish I would have asked more. I think that was something that I learned a little bit later in my career, but never be afraid to ask. The worst, and I know it's a cliche, but the worst they could say is no. The worst anybody could tell you is no, and it's not gonna destroy who you are inside. So really just never be shy about asking. Never be shy about telling your story and asking the question.
Yeah, to that point, Mary, I literally got connected to someone I've known who's a professional acquaintance of my dad's since I was a kid. And he set up coffee. I went to him. And he's like, "So, what do you want to talk about?" And I was like, "John, I have no idea. I'm supposed to network. I don't know what networking means. I want you to give me a job." I was like, "I don't know what to do." And 12 years later, he's still one of my professional mentors, and we catch up regularly. And he actually helped me connect me to someone when I pursued my grad degree. And I just went to him, was like, I literally have nothing. I have no idea. And he's like, let's just start here. And it turned into a great relationship.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
This is probably said over and over again, but I can't reiterate enough. You have to use Scranton Career Services. Some of my favorite people, and believe me, they're not paying me to say this, but some of my favorite people from my time is just meeting them. I wish I met them sooner. Betty Roselle used to work in the office there, and she's my BFF, if I could say that. I bet probably 300 other students could say that too. But you have them even on this line too. Jay's one of my favorite people. I gave him the hardest time when I worked with him. You even see Cheryl Connolly, and he's on here, and you have the director of career services, Chris, on here as well. That is rare. I've worked with different institutions. You need to create a relationship with them, because even in all of our old ages, we could still pick up the phone and say hello. So they are near and dear to my heart. I know that even when I'm 69 and looking for a job, I could probably reach out to them. But you have to create that relationship with them, because they are willing to work with you, and they're the people that will allow you to go on that self journey and find yourself if you're really struggling to find that perfect fit out in the real world.
Yeah, Christy, just to jump on that, you always kind of appreciate what a special place Scranton is when you're there, more so once you're not. I could spot not only a Jesuit educated person, but a Scranton educated person from a mile away. You guys have the ability to critically think about issues, to think about the whole person, to be a man and woman for others. These are not values that just come out of thin air. You've been formed and shaped, especially for you seniors, formed and shaped over 4 years to be a Scranton grad, and it is a phenomenal thing. And so don't take it lightly, don't take it for granted. Use every skill you learned from every part of your time at Scranton, and it's going to serve you well, I promise you.
Awesome. Great ends all around. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank especially the career services, like Christy said, for showing up. That's really great you guys showed up. I also want to thank Jason Swass for putting this whole thing together. And most importantly, I want to thank the panelists for taking time out of their day to come and talk to us. And yeah, awesome. Great job, everyone. I think Jason is going to put up a slide with all the panelists' contact information. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Jay. So yeah, so here's everyone's contact information. If everyone just wants to take a picture who's on here. I think I speak for the panelists to say to reach out to them, thank them for coming. Any questions you have, please reach out to them. If anybody else would like to make any final quick comments before we wrap it up, please do so.
Reach out. It's there.
Yeah,
Please
do this.
Feel
Do
free.
this.
Thank you so
I
much.
just
We
want to
really
say, Jay, I know
appreciate
it's
your
a
time.
typewriter on your desk.
Willing to help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hope you had a good May the 4th, Jay.
Oh, the best. You
Thanks
guys
a lot.
have a great evening.
Bye. Thank
Good.
you
Have a
all.
good
so
day.
much.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
Congratulations.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Great job, Al.
Thank you.
Molly.